It seems like one of the hardest questions to answer, right? Because so often, we have so much invested in this person. We have so much hope that things could be better. We don't want this relationship to end, or we would have already ended it. And yet, when we're honest with ourselves, we know something's not right. We know we don't feel valued and prioritized, at least, not consistently. We know that this is not how love is supposed to feel. And the truth is, you're probably willing to put in the work to make it right, aren't you? For the vast majority of you, you'll read the books, you'll go to counseling, you'll work on your communication, if that's what would help things. But let me guess, they have no interest in doing those things, do they? Things are fine for them. It's you that has the problem. And so today, my job is just to remind you of what you already know, that whatever you want out of your relationship, happiness, fulfillment, intimacy, connection, the truth is, relationships only work when two people are putting in the work. The hard truth about relationships. Love by itself, with no action, will never be enough to save a relationship. Think about it this way. If I stopped showing up to my job, what would happen? I'd be fired, right? But hold on, why did I get fired? You would say, well, it's not that complicated. You didn't meet one of the basic requirements of keeping a job, which is showing up. Okay, but what if I say, I love that job. I would do anything for that job. You'd still say, yeah, but you didn't show up. Despite how much I love it, it wasn't enough of a priority for me to do what was required to keep it. And here's the thing, the only reason that analogy makes perfect sense in our minds, but not when it's applied to relationships, is that not enough people have reminded you that your relationship requires you to show up consistently, or else you lose it as well. Trust and effort, the foundations of healthy relationships. Close connection with another human demands certain things from both of us: trust, safety, the ability to apologize and take accountability, consideration, and empathy. If you forget everything else from this video, remember this: you will never feel close to someone who has no interest in those things. You can continue trying to change them. You can keep wondering if things will get better eventually. You can keep dating their potential. But at the end of the day, relationships always require two people putting in the work to make them work. The importance of choosing wisely. But here's the thing, who you choose to marry is a really big deal. Marriage is hard, baseline. There's a reason that almost half of first-time marriages end, 60% of second marriages end, and 70% of third marriages end. Those are just the numbers. And all those $50,000 weddings we attend, all those newlyweds who seem so in love, we're so excited and hopeful for their future, well, it's a coin flip on whether or not they divorce. That should concern us all. If you're dating someone who only thinks about themselves, refuses to take any accountability when they mess up, rarely, if ever, is curious about your inner world, and has no interest in your feelings, needs, desires, or dreams, it's not even close. It's not even a discussion. You have to leave that relationship. Love alone isn't enough. You might say, well, nobody's perfect. I love them. And I would politely say, I don't care if you love them or they love you. Love has nothing to do with this. They can say they love you and still have no capacity to carry out what that word means. Love means thinking about someone else as much as you think about yourself. Love is all about mutual respect. Love is considerate, and you can't be considerate unless you actually learn about someone else. Get curious about how they feel loved and prioritized. Love is about selflessly sacrificing for someone else. And we can usually get one partner who selflessly sacrifices. That's probably you. But it's really hard to get that other person involved, isn't it? It's time to be honest with yourself. If it's true, it's time for you to admit out loud, this relationship doesn't work for me. That's important to admit because too often, we're not honest with ourselves and we're certainly not honest with them. The vast majority of the time, you're either making excuses for them or you don't feel safe to be honest because it would just start another fight, right? And it makes sense that you're feeling disconnected, potentially resentful, and angry about this relationship. But that anger is telling us something. It's teaching us that we're being mistreated, or at least neglected, in some really important areas. The goal isn't to ignore that anger or allow it to lash out on others. The goal is to listen to what that anger is trying to communicate to us. So, you need to admit, this relationship doesn't work for me. Now, I'm not saying this relationship is doomed. Absolutely, it could change into something better. But let's not forget that building a foundation of trust, intimacy, and emotional safety always requires two people. It doesn't work with just one. The next step, do they want to change? Let me ask you, does your partner have any interest in changing their relationship for the better? Do they have any interest in creating a relationship that works not just for them, but also for you? I'm not asking, could they do those things? Everyone could. I'm asking, will they? Do they have any interest in putting in that work? Because knowing what I should do and actually doing it are two very different things that lead to two very different outcomes. And for some of you, I know you wish it was different. But they've shown you over and over that they aren't interested in putting in the work of accountability, self-reflection, and learning how to prioritize you in the ways you feel loved. When someone shows you who they are, Maya Angelou says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And you just admitted that this relationship isn't working for you, and that it's not going to change. So you have your answer. There are only two options: leave, or continue to feel alone and disconnected in an unfulfilling relationship. And I get it. It's so easy to think, yeah, but maybe I could just compromise a little bit more. Maybe I could just be less needy. But here's the truth, you're already bending over backwards to make this work, right? Why aren't they bending? Why are you having to beg for the bare minimum in the first place? Why do we think that's okay? Moving forward, it's about more than just love. Just because you've been dating someone for a while, just because you're invested in this relationship, it has no bearing on whether or not it's healthy or set up for success. That's completely determined by whether both people are willing to do the work that trust, safety, and intimacy demand. You don't have to leave. But I'm telling you, if you want to avoid misery, a relationship where only one person is putting in the work will lead to loneliness and resentment. Now, there are many married people with kids who think, I can't imagine what leaving would do to my family. And I'm so sorry if you're in that spot. It's hard, I know. But whether or not you stay in this relationship, ask yourself, is this relationship fulfilling me? And if not, it's time to either put in the work together or move on. But be prepared for the emotional backlash from the other person. It's easy to blame the one who ended the relationship because others don't see what was happening inside it. Your relationship ending is not a failure. It is not a reflection of you. You are not a failure. This relationship taught you exactly what you needed to know at this point in your life. Your job now is to step back, self-reflect, give yourself grace and compassion, and ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from all this? For some of us, we needed to learn that being honest about our feelings and boundaries isn't being too difficult. It's actually extremely healthy. We needed to learn that we're not in control of others' emotions or reactions. And we needed to learn that a mature person can take accountability, care about how their actions impact us, and change hurtful behavior. Ultimately, we need to ask, what does healthy love look like? Because real love isn't staying in a relationship where one person is doing all the work. Healthy love is mutual, kind, and deeply attuned to each person's emotional needs. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel.